I just want to quickly make this video. It'll only be a short one as well, I know it will. I did the video yesterday about Monsanto, and I think people misunderstood. Again, there's this thing that happens where someone speaks on something and they don't quite listen to what's going on. So someone attacked very harshly and very rudely, actually, and I blocked them from the YouTube channel. But the things they were saying were, how can I be against GMO foods? Now let me get this clear. That video didn't say that I was against GMO. It really didn't. What it said was, I'm against the legislation used around these GMO seeds that, in my eyes, seemingly is creating a form of corporate communism, which is going to own the seed growth and production in developing countries if they carry on using law to do what they're doing. I might, well, be incorrect about that, but to me, how else can it be described if not? I mean, you don't have to describe it as a form of communism, but when communism is about ownership of production, and this is a legal way of creating a production ownership of seeds, at least, then it's kind of can go into that for myself, for a company who is definitely tied in and connected, especially to those who go along with the Fabian socialist communist ideologies, persons who are linked with that company, then of course you could say that it looks like that is what they're doing. Now, the conversation about GMO is a completely different topic. And this is a problem I think people have with things. You know, the way something is being done doesn't make something bad. I've said the other day, Big Pharma, for sure, some of the ways Big Pharma is operating are terrible, and it's a bad thing. It's a negative entity on the planet. You know, I knew this 100% certain in my life when Tamiflu was injected into millions of people in England without them ever asking, do I need this? And those of us who saw through it and didn't choose to have it are no different to those people, but those people have very strange chemicals inside their body at one point now. That's Big Pharma and its governance. That is a problem. It doesn't mean that the products of modern medicine are evil. I've said this before, I might well be dead without anti-malarials because I fought malaria 3 times. I fought typhoid. I've had amoebiasis, a parasitic infection which debilitates you to an unbelievable level. And you can't control it without modern antibiotics. Many people here, prior to the introduction of modern medicines, would die from amoebiasis. Now they take a very common antibiotic, metronidazole or tinidazole, and it goes away. I'm not saying antibiotics are super healthy for your body, but for the right job and used in the right way, they can save lives. And they are a blessing. Now, just as the same as if you have a disease-ridden part of the world when it comes to certain crops, and you put a GMO, which has been done correctly without using, human DNA and stuff like this, which unfortunately they've done with tomatoes, etc. But you do a GMO strain of crop which is disease resistant. So long as it's approved that it's healthy for human consumption, and so long as it's approved that it's not going to wipe out the local plant life, then that's a good thing, guys. It's a good thing. If someone could have had GMO drought-resistant seeds here last year, I'd have been dancing around and praising them all year long, because I had to watch so many families just lose their full year's livelihood and struggle and suffer with very few meals, and sometimes without the money or income from there to get their children into school, etc. Now, I never said in the video that I am against GMO. GMO in the right hands can help the planet, can help humanity, can help us have disease-resistant crops, cold-resistant crops, so long as they are approved and said to be healthy for human consumption. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? I don't know. There's an ethical aspect of maybe you're playing God and you shouldn't do that. But I mean, we've been playing God now for too long anyway by creating artificial climates, and in doing so creating modern medicine, and in doing so other things that people are happy to indulge in, and in doing so creating abundant populations that need to be fed. So I'm for that, guys. I'm for, if there's a way to positively create a seed that is going to be disease resistant and have guaranteed food for people, or an amazing drought resistant plant that would give us food, I'd be right behind it. But just share it with everybody. Don't make laws that benefit you and make it so as you own everything. You know, get that little egoic behaviour out of the way. And that's what my thing was about. GMOs, just like modern medication, can be a blessing. It would seem can be a blessing if done in the right way and in the right hands. Doesn't mean that the way big pharma companies operate is always great. Doesn't mean that the way big agribusinesses operate are great. Doesn't mean that the legislation put in place is always great. But I never mentioned that. And what I said was that what is happening is not fair because it's a way of owning food production. If they want to truly help people with their seed, then let them bring a safe and non-damaging to human health genetically modified seed which is disease resistant and can indeed help the planet no end. Then let them give it out, let them do that, but don't let them enforce laws on people that aren't going to use them, etc. But better still, let's try not to bother with GMO and let's try to naturally breed our plants so as we have the strongest strains for climatical areas. That's the best way to do it, in my eyes, ignoring GMO altogether and having well-bred plants. There's often a misconception that rapeseed oil, I think it is GMO, and it's not. It's just the fact that it's a bred plant. It's been bred to create what it is now. Breeding of plants is something you can do. You can bond a tree to another tree, and nature allows you to do that. You can have one tree growing all different fruits if you want to. I've seen this done, not in real life, but I've seen it done with a tree surgeon guy on the internet. You can look it up. Nature will allow you to bond in that way. It will allow you to bond plant strains together to create a strong strain. It will allow you to expose its plants to certain climatical changes, etc., to get them to be stronger so as they survive better in that environment. That's a way of breeding plants to be stronger and better, and the seeds that they produce. That's a natural way of doing it. Preferably, let's do it that way. I need a haircut, I think. As you all know, I am all for permaculture and organic farming. We eat organic here. But I'm also for children having food in their bellies. And if we are not at the stage on the planet where we can have enough permaculture knowledge out there to be able to allow people to feed their families, and if there are companies who can ethically and without any issues towards human health or permanent damage to the environment around them, create a GMO crop seed that can allow us to produce food under harsher circumstances and get more guaranteed food so those children have full bellies, I'm not going to stand against such a thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's a blessing. Just as I say, antibiotics are a blessing. Just as people used to die in this village predominantly at around about the age of 18 to 20 when they had HIV. Now there's ARVs. Most people are living into their 50s and 60s. This is the blessing of modern medicine. And then you've got the curse of big pharma, which is the gnarly need for profit at the top of that. But I didn't say I'm opposed to GMOs. I'm not a GMO scientist. I'm not a genetics scientist, so I don't know enough. But if there is a way to create a healthy GMO plant, which is healthy for the human, healthy for the environment around you, which just so happens to be disease resistant, then I'd say maybe in the short term it's a good idea. My fear would be that the diseases can get stronger than the plant because you've done that, and then we have a major catastrophe all over the planet. Which is why I say maybe, just maybe, it's better that we go for permaculture. But if all of a sudden there was massive famine across Africa and because of a disease, and someone had a disease-friendly seed that can stop that from happening so everyone could get fed, then let them get fed. I know it's quite likely these days that these companies might be the one that creates the disease so they can do that. But all I'm saying is if it was a natural plant disease, and someone had seeds that would grow the next year so people wouldn't be starving and children wouldn't be starving, then let's use that until the world catches up and creates permaculture practices and natural organic farming classes and schools in places like Africa where they are heavily dependent on agriculture for everything. Just want to clear that up anyway. Much love, guys.
Soldier on, my good countryman. Keep fighting for your culture now. Keep fighting for your land. And I know it's been thousands of years, and I feel your hurt, and I know it's wrong, and you feel you've been chained and broken and burned. And those beautiful